Okay, so here we are with Ben Radford. Hello, Ben.
Hey there.
So obviously, as noted, you are pre-recorded. Actually, I shouldn't say that because right now you are in London riding a tube train, and yet you are somehow able to astrally project yourself into your home office,
That's
which we
correct.
appreciate greatly. So,
Yes, this is a time slip phenomena. It will be written about in mystery mongering books, say 20, 30 years from now, and the story will involve us. It'll be great.
so what? Give me the nickel bio for in case there's any Skeptoid listeners watching who never heard of that guy. Who is he?
Who's this Radford fellow you have on? I am a research fellow for the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry, formerly SciCop. I'm a folklorist. I'm a podcaster. I have a show called Squaring the Strange. I've written 10 or 12 books, depending on how you count them. I'm probably best known for my investigations into ghosts and chupacabras and evil clowns.
And just so everyone knows, Ben is the model upon which I have built myself. I'm even working on the hair, and I'm getting there. Um,
You'll
so,
get there one day, my son.
what are you doing in London? Is it something work related or something fun related?
A little bit of both, actually. I'll be speaking at the Skeptics in the Pub on Monday the 8th, I believe it is.
And that's the really big group, right? Like the only skeptics in the pub group in the world that actually has tons of people showing up all the time.
Yeah, so that'll be lots of fun. I had been told by the organizer Sid Rodriguez, that I need to down a couple pints before I go up, and I don't normally do that. I don't drink much anyway, but I agreed. I said, okay, if I got to slam a few back. So anyway, I'll be doing a talk for Skeptics in the Pub, and I'm also going out there. I'm going down to see a band that I like called Shriekback. So I'm gonna meet the band and see a gig down there. So it's mostly a pleasure, a little bit of fun.
Shriekback. Okay. Sounds cool. Sounds like metal or something.
Yeah, they had some hits in the '80s. Their biggest hit was a tune called Nemesis, which is famous for having the phrase parthenogenesis, which is rare if not unique in a rock song.
It certainly
Uh,
probably is, yeah.
and
And,
they
and
they actually
everyone
they,
is right now saying how cool, since you said they were big in the 80s and I've still never heard of them, everyone's going, my God, that Dunning guy has lived a sheltered life. I don't
exactly,
know
but
anything.
that's fine.
So I guess you and I first met at Amazing Meetings, probably.
I think so. Yeah, it's one of the. I don't know if it's one of. I have my JRF mug. I'll just.
Ooh, very impressive.
I'm pretty sure it was one. I'd heard of you before. In of course in the skeptic circles, but I think it was one of the first meetings. Yeah.
I remember going over. That's right. It was leaving the whatever hotel. It wasn't at the South Point yet. It was whatever Vegas casino. A whole group of us walked across the street to go to Caesar's Palace for one of those skeptic parties, and we just won't even go there. But I think that was the time we first actually met. Um, and I guess I'm misremembering because I have thought that we first met at a Dragon Con. In fact, here's a photograph of our first meeting.
Is this that infamous photograph?
This is the most bizarre photograph of two people ever taken. Um, and, are
And
you with
keep
me
in
that
mind that we investigate weird photographs, so this is saying something.
and now I have absolutely no idea what was happening in this photograph. And is that the same for you, or do you have any clue at all?
The best I can recall. No, it's just such a weird. I mean, neither one of us are in character. I don't know what the hell was going on there.
I do know in later years, we heard on Facebook that this was taken by our mutual friend Lori, and she said it was taken at the Star Party at
Yes,
some observatory before a Dragon Con event or something.
I do know that's correct. Yes.
Okay, and I got there directly from the airport, and this was early in the evening, so I can attest that there was no alcohol or any other substances involved.
Yeah, I remember you had just shown up straight from the airport,
Yeah.
and you think you were there for like 10 minutes. All of a sudden, I'm like, Brian, you're like, ah.
That's all the other conferences, but it wasn't this one. So then this next photo right here, can you tell us a little bit about this one?
So I believe that this was done up by Mick West, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that's correct too.
And no, why he chose. Here's the thing. So a lot of my Facebook friends have a lot more time on their hands than I do. And I know this because they spend their time coming up with creative and just bizarre photographs of me. And the worst was about a year ago, I was doing a TV shoot and there was a photograph taken by the cameraman with me in front of a green screen. So you can guess where that went.
Okay. Oh God, I'm not even going to talk about that. I was going to bring up another weird photo, but the thing I love about this Lee Harvey Oswald one is how amazingly close it is to the original. So here's the original one, and if you look at the faces, and then here's the new one, and then here's the original, and here's the new one again.
It is well done, I have to say.
It really is. Okay. Anyway, let's get off of the weird photos. So another thing that you and I both have in common is that, and you much more than me, but we've done a lot of these talking head expert things on these paranormal TV shows. Kind of all of these shows are they're so dime a dozen. I mean, I don't even know how to describe them. One of these shows, I was doing a segment on the Bell Island boom,
okay.
Which there's a Skeptoid episode for those of you who don't know the Bell Island boom. But I saw that segment used in 2 other television shows, including one that was on another network. So really? It's like they just mix and match the content. They're all so similar.
Right.
So do you have, I know you've got a million fun stories from some of these, but anything in particular you'd like to share?
Yeah, there's a couple. I mean, you know, there's more than a few. There's one I remember. There was a cryptozoology show, and they flew us out to I think it was Pennsylvania or Kentucky, and it was I was of course the token skeptic, and they had a tracker, they had a couple Bigfoot guys, and they sort of brought us all together. And it was a fun shoot. We were there for I think 3 or 4 days, and it was what they call a sizzle reel. So they weren't shooting the series themselves. They were shooting basically. They wanted to put together a 2 to 5 minute pitch to the networks to say, hey guys, this is the people that are involved. Here's what's going to look like. It's all very sexy and dramatic, and please pick it up and fund us for it. So
this is a sizzle reel. This means that you were going to be one of the main hosts on the show.
Right, exactly.
Okay, cool. Okay.
So we went out there and we actually went to a chicken place by Colonel Sanders' widow. I've forgotten exactly where that is, but it was, Colonel Sanders, he dropped dead at some point and his widow's carrying on, and you can get some really good chicken there. Anyway, so we went there after one of the shoots, but what was interesting, what I remember mostly about it was that I was there with this other guy, and the way that the producers were trying to frame us as enemies, right? It's like there's the skeptic and there's the believer, and it was funny because they would talk to each of us separately. So we were shooting at this house sort of out in the woods, and the producers would go and talk to him. And I could hear what they're saying. Okay, now, so what do you think about Ben? And he's like, well, I just met him like yesterday. He's like, okay, but he seems like an armchair skeptic, right? He never gets out from behind his computer, and he just sits back and issues proclamations about skeptical things. And he's like, I guess. And so then they're like, so what do you think about him? And so I was like, and I could tell what they were doing. It was, I didn't object. I'm like, whatever. The show never got picked up, but it was just funny. And so to this day, he and I are friends on Facebook, and so to this day we sometimes go back and forth. And I'm the behind the desk Ben, because according to the TV show, I don't do any field investigation. And of course, if you know anything about what I do, I've done lots of field investigation. So it was just interesting, sort of seeing how for TV purposes we had to be in these 2 separate camps, and of course off camera we're hanging around and buddies and all sorts of stuff like that. But
well, I'll just point out that I am a behind the desk skeptic. I never get out to do anything. The whole a skeptic and a believer thing. I mean, I probably get an inquiry from some production company who has a concept they're trying to pitch. I probably average one a month that is kind of, serious enough. It's a real production company that actually has shows. Is that about
Right.
the same frequency that you get that? And
Yeah, yeah, and you and I have been doing this a long time, and it's, and at some point, honestly, in the early days, I would get excited, like, oh, I got an email from a TV company, right? And then after a while, it's like, oh, really? He's like, delete, or so it's like, you just, and finally, it's gotten so in the past few years, again, probably I would say 2/3 of them are obviously garbage. They don't know what they're talking about. They're just trying to
right,
waste your time and pick your brain. And maybe one out of every five is something that is reputable enough and credible enough that I'll be doing it. And I'll say, look, I'll be honest with you. I get emails from producers, a couple times a year that are serious enough. It's like, I'm not going to waste my time. If I can't bring skepticism and science to it, then call somebody else. I don't care. I'm not desperate to be on TV. The novelty of being on TV wore off a long time ago. Uh,
yeah,
and
right.
and if you, I will do your show if I can look at it and I can see that I can bring skepticism to it, and I have some belief that I'm not going to be edited into 40 seconds at the end. But I got other stuff to do.
Now, there's another issue that always comes up in these things. I always demand to get paid, or I'm not going to do it. I mean, do you do the same thing?
Sometimes, and I'm in sort of a different situation than you, because part of my job as a research fellow at the Center for Inquiry
You're
is
already being paid to do this.
right. So
That's true.
In my position, I'm a sort of neither fish nor fowl, where I don't just have carte blanche to head off to to Bosnia for a week to look into a ghost story. I mean, CFI isn't going to pay for that. But if it's reasonable, if it's just a quick 1 or 2 day shoot, that happens to be Wednesday through Saturday or something, then then my time is being paid for in that way.
Right.
So yeah.
I should probably make the same argument because I'm on salary from Skeptoid Media, and that can be arguably considered part of our outreach. But I know that they're always going to do just what you said. They edit you to 40 seconds in the end. They essentially waste your time.
Yeah.
And for me, it's not as much getting paid as it is. I mean, the money goes to the nonprofit anyway. It doesn't go to me. It's kind of punishing them for what I know they're going to do to me in the editing room.
Right. Make them pay for it, right?
But when there is a case that you do say, hey, I'm not going to do this unless you pay me, do they always argue, oh, no one would ever be paid to be in a TV show like this? That would be completely unheard of. Do you ever get that?
On occasion, usually after they talk to me or they see a couple emails and they see that I'm using higher than third grade language, they realize that they're not going to be able to pull the wool over my eyes. Like, no one's been paid for this sort of thing. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, come on, dude, I don't have time for this. Either don't waste, And I was talking to our friend Sharon Hill the other day, and she's the same way. She just, and what these producers do, as you know, and your audience may not, is a lot of times, probably at least half the time, they're just trying to pick your brain. They want you to do the research for them.
Yes.
So you'll have a producer who like, oh yeah, this is blah blah blah, and I'm with it, can I talk to you for a little bit? Can you do some research for the show? And it's stuff that just use Google, man, or just don't and they want your expertise, but they don't want to pay for your time.
Yeah, that's the standard email that I get when I'm excluding the average about once a month where it's actually kind of a real thing. Every week, and often a couple of times a week, I get that email from someone.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm junior, 18-year-old development producer with so-and-so production company, and we're doing a show on the Grey Man of Bain Macdui in Scotland. What can you tell me about that? Do you know anything about that story? The stupid thing is they found out about me by Googling and finding my episode transcript, so they
Right.
already know everything that I have to say on the subject. What, you can't just read that?
Right, and it just gets so annoying. It's like, just come on. But again, they're counting on people not, sort of coming into this and being dewy-eyed and dropping everything at the email of some assistant producer. So
this raises a question. Let me ask your thoughts on this. Since guys like you and I will not do their research for them for free, they just simply move on, and the next person they find on the internet is almost always going to be a wooist.
right.
And
Yeah.
the wooist is very happy to go on TV for free and to do whatever work they want them to do for free. So are we contributing to the problem of too much woo in these networks by not giving away our knowledge for free?
That is absolutely a valid question, and that's been an issue in skepticism for as long as I can remember. Yeah, I mean and honestly, I mean, I've been on both sides of the fence about this. To my mind, it sort of depends on the specific circumstance. So there will be times when I'll it's not a big deal to me because I've written about hundreds of mysteries. In many cases, I've personally investigated them, and I have them here on my computer. So if they ask me about something, it literally would take me, 40 seconds to do a find on my computer and find a bunch of information for them. So it's not that it's a lot of time out of my day. It's just more a matter of it's the principle of the thing.
Let me ask you a specific. Let me ask you a specific question on one of these shows. There was. This was probably, I don't know, 6-9 months ago. And I'm guessing that they called you as well as calling me. I had several phone calls with the producer, and it was about the cave in, I don't think it's Mexico. Is it Mexico? The Cueva de los Tayos?
Oh, I did. I vaguely recall something like that. Yeah.
Did you have a phone call or two with a producer on that in about that time period?
Yeah, it was very short. I was in the middle of a bunch of other stuff. I basically did get a producer, and they're talking about a cave, and I'm like, what do you want from me?
I took advantage of that opportunity to kind of. There's no way I was going to do it, but I just wanted to kind of get more inside their process. The show concept was. One of the original researchers of this cave was a Scottish guy, and his daughter is now kind of taken up his mantle, and they believe that there's alien artifacts inside this cave.
I think I remember something like that, yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's a cave that, people have been going into, and spelunkers and scientists for, a century, and there's no alien artifacts in there, okay? And so my question for the guy is, what are you going to point the cameras at when you get down there? Because you know that there is nothing interesting in that cave. I mean, that's an established fact. And says, well, I got him to admit, well, yeah, we're just going to say, well, maybe it's around this next corner in the cave. Maybe you got to dive through this underwater thing. It's like, there are no underwater things in that cave. We know that too. It's like,
well, no, I had the exact same, and I do remember talking to the one of the producers about that. Again, it didn't go very far just because I was busy and it sounded like bullshit to me. I figured, hey, Brian will take care of this. But I get that sort of same thing with a lot of ghost hunter shows. Like, for example, I did a show called I think it was The Real Amityville Horror for Mystery Quest. This is about a decade ago. And I get a call from them and like, yeah, we're doing a show on the working title's Real Amityville Horror, and we want you to come out and investigate this haunted house. And then I said, okay, well, tell me more about it. Okay, well, we're going to fly you out to LA. I said, Amityville, it's it's on the other coast. And they're like, we'll fix it in post. I'm like, what? They're like, no. So they're like, okay, so we actually, it was this place out in Carson, California. And it's the Haunted Wolf Manor. And I've talked about this before. And I even gave a talk at DragonCon about it. So if anybody wants to dig up some of my talks at DragonCon, it's one of them there. But it was just this fascinating thing where they flew me out there. And of course, I was the token skeptic. And it was this place, again, called Haunted Wolf Manor, which was originally a fake haunted house. And then the owner decided it was a real haunted house. So like, oh, maybe the ghosts are real. So suddenly he's having the ghost hunter show up, and it was just this big fiasco. But it was just fascinating. So I'm talking to the producers, and they're like, okay, well, we want you to go be with this crew of ghost investigators. And I said, okay, well, what exactly do you want me to do? Well, so, there'll be a psychic who's going to get an impression about a room, and we want you to debunk that. I was like, how would I do that? It will be, I said, I've done this before, so I can tell you what'll happen. We're going to be in a room, and I'm the token skeptic, and there's a camera crew there, and there's a ghost hunter too. And the ghost hunter is going to say, I'm getting an evil male presence in that room. He's angry, and he's like 70, and he killed somebody, and he has this trauma. And the cameras are going to turn to me and say, explain that, Mr. Skeptic.
Right.
Like, I don't know. She's making it up. I don't know. And it was just like, and I'm trying to talk to the producer, and I'm trying to be, I'm trying to be diplomatic. I'm trying to be, because I understand that this producer may have been doing, a basketball show last week. So suddenly she's on this other show. And so I'm trying to sort of be gentle and say, okay, just so you understand, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to be in the position of having to try to explain things that I'm explain someone's thoughts and feelings. I don't know what the hell that was. So I said, if there's something substantive, if there's a light or a sound or something ghost-like going on that I can actually physically, tangibly, empirically test and look at, I'll be happy to. It's not going to happen most likely, but I'll be willing to look into it. But most of this ghost stuff, it's all these impressions and feelings, and I feel like I'm being watched, and so it's like, what do you want me to do with that?
Yeah, that's really difficult. And that goes to the point that I was just talking about the cave, is the producers know that they are going to get there with a camera, and there's not going to be any ghosts.
Right.
There's not going to be anything interesting to show. So you got to figure they have to have some kind of a plan for how are we going to make this show interesting. And it's like they're going to have to, they're in the position of having to make her impressions be the ghost.
Exactly.
And then show the skeptic being baffled as proof that the ghost must actually be real.
Exactly. So what will happen, and this didn't happen in this case, but what otherwise will happen is the psychic will talk about these spirits that she's sensing in the side of the room, and the camera will turn to me, and I'll say, I can't explain that because there's nothing to explain, because it's all her feelings, and the edited version will be, I can't explain that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because in print, we're done.
Yep. So have you ever put any thought into, let's say some TV executive threw a ton of money at you and said, Ben, make us a good series, and you have complete creative control. Have you ever put any thought into what that series would look like?
I have, in fact. As with you, I've been approached over the years by dozens of TV shows, dozens or hundreds, depending on how serious they are. So on occasion, I'd say there's maybe been a half dozen times of the past 15, 20 years that I've been in serious conversations with somebody who I had some sense had integrity and was actually trying to do some good. And so, and they would pitch to me, and they say, okay, well, Ben, what do you think? And so if I were going to do a TV series, I would do something along the lines of Investigation Academy, where I would be teaching ordinary lay people how to investigate mysteries, because that, as you know, that's one of my fortes. That's part of what I do. And so I could see myself having a class of 8 or 10 students, and I would present them with a mystery. It's like, here's a classic mystery, the moving coffins of Barbados, or the Phoenix UFO lights case, or take your pick. I would present them with the mystery and just bring them in cold and say, let's just talk about this, just a seminar format. Spend 10 minutes talking about what do you think it is? What do you think the explanations are, whatever else? And then have them do some research on it, and I would guide their investigations. So for example, there'd be a team of 2 or 3 kids, high school students, college students, whatever, who'd go and investigate this particular angle, that particular angle. And then we would come back a week later, and they would present their evidence and what they found, and they'd offer it to the class, and I would guide them through the way. And so partway through, there would be this part where they would come up and they would say, this is what I think it is. And through sort of the Socratic method, I would say, okay, well, let me ask you questions about that. Again, not confrontationally, just very diplomatically. We're just asking questions. Have you considered alternative explanations? Did you look for original sources? Did you do this? Did you do that? And in the process, hopefully teach not only the students but also the audience how to investigate these. And I think that would be an interesting angle, because it's more behind the scenes. It's sort of pulling back the curtain. It's not just like, here's the mystery and here's the answer, go away. It's here's the mystery, here's the really interesting ways that you investigate that mystery, and here's the different explanations and which one is most likely.
But what I love about it is that it does solve the mystery. I mean, we know that by the end of each episode of the show, most of these kids, most of the students are going to have, more or less found the actual solution to what really happened in these cases. And by virtue of the format of the show, you're going to choose the one who's most correct and who did the best job revealing the actual story. So I love that. That's great.
Well, thanks.
Make that happen.
I thought about that, and again, part of the idea would be at the end of each episode, each show, there would still be some students who still think the answer is wrong, and I would respect that. It's okay. You can believe that. I mean, I'm not trying to force the opinions on you. Let me just leave you with these questions. If you think this woo explanation is correct, why X, Y, and Z, and just leave it at that, and let them in the audience, parse out which is the truth.
So, do you vote someone off each week? You have to do that to be on TV these days.
Yeah, I think voting off is a little harsh. I was thinking that maybe lose like a finger or a limb. It doesn't have to be an important one. Just there has to be some real penalty for getting it wrong.
I love that. Well, Ben, I got to thank you so much. We're out of time, but this has been a lot of fun, and I know that you and I could have gone on for another hour or two or three just talking about more of these adventures and adventures in Woo television. So, thanks a lot.
Well, thanks for having me on, and congratulations, and I'm glad to see science fiction is finally coming to fruition.